Welcome to episode 35 of the Bulls Recap Podcast. I am Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You can read me in the Sun-Times sports section. You could follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at JCowleyHoops. Summer League, just about done. It was a good time in Vegas. Got to see a firsthand look at a lot of this heralded rookie class, the 25 rookie class. Believe the hype. There is a lot of hype around these guys. Believe it. I believe this class could be special. The 26 class obviously is already being talked about as being equally as deep and as top heavy. We shall see how that plays out. But what I want to do, we're going to start entering kind of a dead period in the NBA. August, as we get to August, the month of August is really a dead period. There's still some unknowns as far as the restricted free agents. Josh Giddey, obviously, is the closest one that hits home. Kuminga, what does Golden State do with those? That's kind of the unfinished business in this thing because there's really no money, so there's no market, there's no bidding. But so I wanted to do is look at the Eastern Conference. Now that we've got to see what some of the rookies look like for the East, the offseason moves, what teams will look like, the injuries that some teams will still be dealing with, Indiana, Boston come to mind, what those grades look like for the Eastern Conference, and where the Bulls fit in the scheme of things, since obviously that's the focus of the podcast. So first of all, the one thing I think is interesting, I found this website, they do a continuity rating, and the East has really been, as far, and it's based on returning minutes, and it doesn't take injuries into account. So Indiana is atop the continuity rating in the East, but obviously losing Miles Turner to Milwaukee and not having Halliburton all of next year, it's kind of a fugazi. It's, you can look at it and say, oh, they have 83% returning minutes. They really don't. So that's going to take a big hit. New York is number 2 at 80%. Toronto number 3 at 80%. So they're tied. Miami 76%, Cleveland 74%, and the Bulls 73% of the returning minutes. So I thought that was kind of interesting as far as a continuity thing. But like I said, it's kind of fugazi because those teams may not on the surface have a lot of comings and goings. Like some of the rosters, obviously Houston's had a big overhaul. The Wizards have had a huge overhaul. So things like that will change. So that's why I really wanted to take a deeper dive at the Eastern Conference and grades to hand out. And we're going to start with, to me, the team, because this is kind of in alphabetical order, the team that has had the best offseason by far in the East, or at least one of them, Atlanta. And you rarely say Atlanta's done some great things. It seems like an organization that's, like the Bulls, has been stuck in the mud. Here's what I like about them. They lost Clint Capella. They lost LeVert, who they traded for in the middle of last season. Alexander Walker, big boy, adult. Porzingis, vet. Kennard, shooter. Those are their additions. But the big thing they did on draft night, which we've talked about before on this pod, but I don't think we can hammer home enough. The trade they did with New Orleans wanted to move up right behind the Bulls. They said, okay, you can move up. They allowed New Orleans to take that pick, which I think was number 12. I think they took Queen, obviously, Derek Queen, who was on the Bulls' rumored radar for a while. And they took the 26th first-round pick from New Orleans unprotected. No one knows why the Pelicans did it. They obviously love Derek Queen, who had some flashes in Summer League, but also the knock on him was the lack of athleticism, and that lack of athleticism showed. So he's really got to do a lot of things. And then they take Asen Newell, who I really liked. I had mocked the Bulls at taking him in the Sun-Times mock draft at 11, and this guy showed up in Summer League. So they did everything they can. That doesn't mean they're going to be a threat in the East, not right now, but they've made steps forward. And what I also like is that pick that they acquired, this whole thing of Trae Young and being trapped by Trae Young, we'll see. we'll see if that frees up the idea of moving Trae Young to a desperate team that wants him. So Atlanta, give them a solid A. Boston, you get an F. Not your fault. You got new ownership. Ownership doesn't want all that salary. Started dumping guys. Drew Holiday, that's a big loss. Porzingis, not as big a loss. Cornette, he was sneaky important off the bench, and you added Simmons, who you may also trade too. So you get an F. Brooklyn, I'm going to give Brooklyn an incomplete because they basically drafted. Nobody thought they were going to use all 4 picks in the first round of the draft, and they said, "No, we're going to do that." Igor Demon, had some moments. Nolan Traore didn't have very good moments. Danny Wolf had some good moments. Drake Powell, some good moments. What happens with Cam Thomas with restricted free agency? So there's just an incomplete there. We're going to give them the incomplete. Charlotte, sneaky good offseason for Charlotte. We're giving them a B plus. And again, they've set themselves up where if the LaMelo Ball ongoing experiment of flash and dash with really not a lot of good outcome in the standings doesn't work, they've kind of set themselves up for an out for a big trade. Colin Sexton, don't love his game, but it works. Pat Connaughton, an adult. Con Knipple, first game was not good. Second game, he looked like a guy that can do it all and play defense. Spencer Dinwiddie, an adult. Again, they lost Williams. B plus. I like the fact that they added adults, and LaMelo. It doesn't always have to be the LaMelo show. They've set themselves up for that out, so I gave them a B plus. Takes us to the Bulls. I know I'm usually Mr. Positive. We're going to give the Bulls a B minus, and here's why. Trey Jones, outstanding, re-signing him. Isaac Okoro, I think is going to be solid. I think he's going to push Patrick Williams. I think he's going to add a defensive element that they lack. Noah Essengay had some moments. I still think he's a G leaguer. That doesn't change. There's an unknown with Josh Giddey. That's why there's a B minus involved because we still don't know what's going to happen. They're obviously going to re-sign him. It's just at what price. But to me, the thing that kind of has saved their off season is Modest Buchelis, and I'll tell you why. Everything they wanted to see from him, and it was short. It was only 2 games in summer league as far as being a secondary ball handler, as far as being aggressive, as far as adding that muscle and seeing what that muscle looks like. Check, and check. Check those boxes. So I give the Bulls a solid B minus for what they've done so far this offseason. Cavs. Lonzo Ball is huge for them because it adds a defensive element to a backcourt that lacks defense. Basically, it's just kind of keep him healthy in the regular season. Don't worry about his minutes so much. Make sure he's ready for the postseason where they stumbled. Number 1 seed, and it really meant nothing. Larry Nance Jr., sneaky good signing. He's not Okoro, but I think he'll play some of those Okoro minutes. Long, rim protector, pretty good defender. The big thing for them, losing Ty Jerome to Memphis is going to hurt. I give them a solid B. Detroit, A minus. So added Karis LeVert, love him off the bench. Duncan Robinson, love him off the bench. They still have Isaiah Stewart off the bench. And Ronald Holland II, applause to you for your summer league and the work you've put in. He was a dude in Vegas. He was the dude with some of the poster dunks and some of the stuff he did. If he pops like he looked like he can, and that's another bench guy to go with that starting 5, Detroit's going to be a problem. We're talking about hosting a first-round playoff game. That's how I feel like they've kind of jumped. And look, they tanked. They had a formula. They tanked. They got their guy in Cunningham. They missed on some lottery picks, but they ended up getting their guy in Cunningham. They are the formula for what the Bulls should have tried doing, but didn't have the sack to do so. So I hope Detroit skyrockets and reminds our tourists that there's other ways to do this, especially when you're not great at drafting like our tourists and company have been so far. They've been a lot of hit and miss. So I give them an A minus. Pacers, F. Tony Bradley on the depth chart is your starting center right now. F for that. Don't care how good your coaching staff is. F. You're not going to have Halliburton, and as of right now, Tony Bradley is your starting center. They signed James Wiseman. That's a prayer. Let's hope that he finally wants to figure it out. But F, 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 F. Miami. I give Miami a C. The addition of Norman Powell obviously is going to add to the Heat culture, but 3-point shooting. They re-signed Davion Mitchell. I like that. Kasparis showed off. He showed out at some games, Mr. Illinois. So I give them a solid C, C plus. They're kind of in that area. They didn't make a lot of changes. Like I said earlier, they're like 76% of their minutes returning. Duncan Robinson, losing him. We'll see what that does to the bench. But I think Miami's going to be in it because of coaching. So we'll see. Milwaukee. I like what Milwaukee did. I know they're getting killed in some corners. I give them a solid B plus. Miles Turner was a heist. They heisted him from Indiana. I don't think the Pacers saw that coming. At least it feels that way. Garrett Harris, Cole Anthony. They're not Dame time, but it gives them backcourt options. Re-signing Portis, love that. It's a makeover, but on the run. Dame time and Lopez obviously are big time losses, but I feel like Miles Turner and the additions in the backcourt with Harris and Anthony give them kind of they go back a couple years to a more defensive identity that they lost with Dame time. I like what they did. They basically said, Giannis, let's give this another run. We think you're one of the best players in the league. We believe in you. We believe you're a buck. B plus. Knicks, F. What are we doing? You built the bench out a little bit with Clarkson and Gersey. Tyler Kolek had a good summer league. Mike Brown's your coach. When has he gotten the most out of a roster? F. Orlando. What they did early on in the Desmond Bane trade, that was their offseason. B plus. I think they added Tyus Jones as well. Desmond Bane is the difference maker for them. It gives them a defensive-minded, another shooter. I think they were last in three-point percentage. And they didn't attempt a lot. So this totally changes them, and he's a defensive guy that fit. They're just going to be them and Toronto are just going to physically try and just beat you up. You're going to feel it when you have to go play the Magic, when you have to go to Toronto and play those teams. So B plus, love the Desmond Bane trade. Outstanding offseason. Philly, you could have an A if everyone's healthy. You could have a D. Don't know. If everyone's healthy, Maxey, Embiid, McCain, and then you added VJ Edgecombe, who had some really, really, really good moments in Summer League. Before he came to Vegas, he played out in that California Summer League. I think he had a 26 or 28-point game. Was hampered. Did eventually play in Vegas. Had a bad first half in that fourth quarter. I think he went off for like 12 or 14 points in the fourth quarter. Here's the nice thing about him. He's not going to be in the play sets a lot. So he's going to have to create his own stuff, whether it's offensive rebound and putbacks. His athleticism popped, and that was the thing that everyone talked about. He is a guy that's just going to go and get it and give them a defensive presence. Everyone's healthy. It's an A off season because I think Philly could be a top 2 or 3 seed if everyone's healthy. Toronto, I give them a B minus. They re-signed Jacob Poeltl. I like Poeltl. He gives them some rim protection. Their starting 5 when you think about it. It's Quickly, Ingram, Barrett, Barnes, Poeltl. Pretty solid. Especially if Ingram kind of does what he flashed in New Orleans at sometimes. If Grady Dick does what they feel he can do and add some 3-point shooting off the bench, they could be a playoff team that doesn't have to go in the play-in. So we'll see a top 6 team. The Wizards, Never thought I'd give the Wizards, like Atlanta, an A minus, but here's what I like about them. They got rid of Jordan Poole. That right there is a B move. That's a B plus move. To me, he's a culture drain. He drains your culture. Not a winning player. It's all about him. They added CJ McCollum. Love that. Cam Whitmore, I thought that was a sneaky little move. I mean, four of their starters. Carrington, he flashed as a rookie last year. CJ, Chris Middleton, pro's pro if he stays healthy. And Alex Sarr had some really good moments this offseason. And then Trey Johnson looks like he is going to be a dude as far as scoring. There were the comparisons of Tyler Hero as far as being a multi platform scorer, whether it's at the rim or shooting from three. It just looks very easy for him in Summer League. Obviously, the big boys are going to come out, but it just seems like they are changing the culture of what they want to do finally, and they've got the guys to do it. So I'm giving them an A minus. And look, their mindset is still, hey, if this team is not ready, which it probably is not to compete, we'll go in that 26 draft class and we'll do it again and add another guy. If they can hit in the 26 draft class, like I think they did with Trey Johnson, because I think that draft class 1-6, 1-7, especially 1-3, you can get some dudes. I mean, applause for finally a culture change in Washington, which we haven't seen in quite some time. So A minus offseason for them. That's the grades. Let's go to Cowley Island. We got a little rant here. I applaud Arturas for finally putting on the big boy pants and saying, we are going to play hardball with a guy in Josh Giddey, restricted free agent, no money to be had, no offers, and Giddey's not alone. You got Thomas, you got Kuminga. There's a couple other guys floating around, restricted free agents. But where was this last year? Where was this in previous years when you were just willy-nilly throwing out contracts? Now, all of a sudden, did Patrick Williams and that mistake teach you to be a tough guy, or are you just playing tough guy right now? I applaud it, but where was this last year when you said, hey, Patrick Williams, 5 years, $18 million a year, unproven, but you were my first pick. You were my first draft pick. And I have to be in love with my guys, and I have to take my guys to the grave with me, because that's kind of what it feels like. You handed out all this money, but since then you made every move possible to tell Patrick Williams, you're not that good. You drafted Noah Essengay. You added Okoro in a trade. So you're basically saying, I'm adding two guys that I think are going to take your job. But last year at this time, I gave you 5 years, $18 million per. That kind of tells me you really don't know what you're doing. You don't have a long-term vision. It's just year to year. And I understand that's the league. Things change year to year. But when you're committing that kind of money over that amount of time, there should have been a little longer vision of what you wanted to do. So I have a big problem with not how you're handling Giddey, but all of a sudden this change of heart. Now you're a tough guy. Now the market is dictating that you can be a tough guy. But the market last year was not bidding for Patrick Williams. Nobody was going to give him that amount of money. There was one person that was going to give him that amount of money, and that's the guy that drafted him number 4 overall and had to pretend like it was a great first pick for you in your regime. So shame on you for last offseason. I applaud this offseason, but it just tells me that there's just not a long-term vision. It is just willy-nilly. So we'll see. We'll see how the Giddey thing, Giddey proved a lot more than Patrick Williams. In the last couple months of the season, his second half of the season was better than anything Patrick Williams has put together long-term or sustained. So, we'll see how it plays out. I definitely think they're going to re-sign Josh Giddey again, because they traded Alex Caruso, NBA champion Alex Caruso, for him. So they can't just say, hey, we gave away Alex Caruso, we didn't get a draft pick in return, and we let Josh Giddey walk. That's not happening. So it's going to be at what price? The Giddey camp wanted the Jalen Suggs contract of $30 million a year. It does not look like that is even close to reality. So is it going to be 22? Is it going to be 25? Do you want to hurt his feelings? Does he say, you know what? I'm betting on myself. I'll sign you a little 1-year deal for 11 million, and then I become an unrestricted free agency. You will lose me after next season. They don't want that. So it's just going to be, what do they do this at? What's the final settling money? It almost feels like the rest of the league is waiting to see what happens with someone else. Kaminga, who's the first one? Who's the first team to commit and say, we're giving X amount of money for this guy? And then I think the dominoes will fall in place. But, again, this front office, questionable long-term vision. Let's get to the list. Back from Vegas, had a chance to see a lot of guys. This is probably how I feel like rookie of the year is going to work out, but also these are the top 5 guys I saw as far as rookies. We're not going second year guys because then you have to add a Modest and guys like that. Alex Sarr, had some moments. These were the 5 guys of this rookie class that I said, that's a dude. There's something there. Number 5, VJ Edgecombe. Didn't get to see a lot of them in Vegas because of the injury. But what we saw before Vegas out in the California League that he played in, or Salt Lake, wherever he was, and then the second half he did play in Vegas. I just think athleticism. He's gonna be a dude, and Philly, applaud Philly for being aggressive and saying, yeah, we could play these guys the second half of the season, but this season's kind of lost. Let's just go in tank mode and shut them down. And they did that. Number 4, Con Knipple. First game was not good. I think he was 1 for 5 shooting. He just kind of looked like his second game, and the way he not only scored the ball, shot the ball, which obviously is going to be his forte, his strength is 3-point shooting, but his playmaking, his defense, his leadership, some of the assists he had. I think he's going to be phenomenal. So Charlotte moving in the right direction. Number 3, Trey Johnson. Talked about him. There's definitely he's a better defender than Bradley Beal, but as far as just coming in the league and scoring right away, there's definitely a feel like this dude can do it from outside, inside. He's just a scorer, and he's going to give you a little bit more defense than just a scorer too. So, as good as advertised. Number 2, Dylan Harper. Only played a couple games because of an injury. I think he was out for 4 months with that injury. So to come in this first game to be on that stage against Dallas and the man, Cooper Flagg, I think he ended up with 17, made winning plays. He looks like Darren Fox is going to be available for a trade. San Antonio could be trading a big-time guard in midseason, and again, loading up and looking to grab more assets from that 26 draft class. So Dylan Harper, Castle, and Wemby, and then whatever else is coming, look out, Western Conference. And that's the Western Conference is tough, but San Antonio could be doing the things the right way. Number 1, plant the flag. Cooper Flagg. Yeah, he got ripped his first game for his shooting. He put up 21 shots. I applaud any rookie that just comes in and says, I'm the number 1 pick, and I'm putting up 21 shots. It's a make or miss league. He made winning plays that entire game. They were blitzing him, double teaming him. Dallas put the ball in his hands a lot. Outstanding. Then they're like, okay, you're going to play your second game. He comes in, he drops a 31 piece. He says, okay, you people don't, even though I shot 21 times, I think he shot 21 times the second game. Obviously, a lot more efficient. But he's not going to do that during the regular season because they have AD. Eventually, they'll have Kyrie. But look, I think within 3 years, this is the new face of the NBA. I think he is that good. He showed off the defense. He showed off his athleticism. He showed off his playmaking, high IQ. There's really not a weakness in the guy's game that I can see. And he's 18. So I think he's a couple months younger than when LeBron came over and LeBron take over. I think he can have that kind of impact He's not going to have to carry a team like LeBron did, but I think as far as the all-around game, he's a complete game changer, as good as advertised. Cooper Flag, and you know what? He could have been a Bull if they would have done things the right way, but they just don't know how to do things the right way. So that's it. Episode 35 in the books. Until next week, I got next.